this is Magnus, our writer-director. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you all for being here.
Wasn't that just delightfully dark and just what you need? That's how I felt. Okay, so we learn at the end, true story based on a true story. Can you tell me a little bit about if you knew the story before and how you came across this story, or even, I know you were a co-writer, so how you all developed it into the script that we ended up with here?
It's a long story. No, I can make it shorter, but it's like worth mentioning. I'm from Sweden originally. I moved to Poland when I was 20, so 20 years ago, to go to film school. And after film school, I made my first feature film in Sweden, in Swedish, but I'm always working out of Poland. I work with our producer very closely, and we make all our films, even in film school, together. The first film we made was in Swedish, but based out of Poland and Sweden. The second film was in Polish, based in Poland. And this one in Danish, set in Denmark and produced out of Denmark and from Poland. So it's a kind of a way I like to work, like not always in my native, or rather not in my native language. I like to work in languages that I don't completely master, and in countries or places where stories are set that are not where I come from. It has some kind of healthy arrogance, distance that makes me look at things differently. But so this story was one of those that I was approached by the Danish producer, my co-writer, Trine Dyrholm, to make a feature film, or to develop a feature film based on these true crimes that happened in Denmark, and it's kind of like a trauma in Danish history that happened just like during First World War and just after. And it was this so-called angel maker who helped women take care of unwanted children by pretending she was finding foster families for them, and making, or also, having people believe in this kind of a bit naive dream. But I found it very interesting that if you start zooming out a little bit, and not just look at this devil woman serial killer, you find a society, you find times and conditions that are not isolated from her acts. She was not a woman who kidnapped babies from bedrooms to take them and kill them. Women came and gave their children and even paid her to take them from them. And that says a lot about society, and it was very interesting to see that even this world set 100 years ago in this kind of poverty, and this world that feels so far away and different, also started reminding me of the contemporary world where I live. I live in Poland, like I said, and Poland in 2020 introduced some of the harshest abortion laws in the world, and took away the freedom of choice from women and families. And it's rather like going backwards in time as we're going forward. And it started reminding me also about, rightfully so, about this film and these horrible conditions. And in a way, I think it's almost like science fiction. You put films into the future to kind of tell something about today's world by emphasizing it or using a crooked mirror. And the same, I believe, that costume drama or a film like this can also, set in the past, say something about our times today. So if you find similarities with where you live, and the film is very bad, it's not a move in the right direction, I would say. And if you find none, then it says something good about where you live.
Definitely not finding none.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm really curious about the husband character, because I don't know, I just thought it was so interesting that right off the bat you see him coming back from war and he's been disfigured, and right away our, like for better or worse, our heroine, she comes off very unsympathetic, like right at the beginning, and I kind of loved it, but I was so intrigued because I thought after the movie, like, we could have told this story without him, but what was it about this character and him coming back for more and the like kind of absence of what we know about their relationship? Like, what do you, if you could just speak a little bit about that character, I'm really intrigued.
Well, I think, like, because it was always, I think we felt very quickly that our intentions were not to make a biopic about a serial killer. It's not that interesting, I think. I'd rather to find a main character that is completely made up from ours, like Karoline and her journey, where she comes from, and how she becomes part of Dagmar's world. The more we started working on her, the more we walked backwards, right, away from these true crimes to see where she comes from. And it was impossible for me to ignore the First World War as part of this story in a way, because it was happening right next door. Because Denmark was neutral at this time, but I thought about this husband. Okay, she must have this husband who went to war because he wanted an adventure, and then he meets, hell, and he goes back completely mutilated and changed. And I thought it was interesting because this film is, I think, a bit like war as well for Karoline, but like on the home front. She goes through a war. At the end of that, she can find a new way of living with her husband. But it was mostly, I think, of building a credible world surrounding her before she meets Dagmar. I wanted to make the film unpredictable in that way. And it's not so much to me about like the certain meanings exactly or symbolic value of him, but it's more that she had a life before, and she's choosing not to be part of that life anymore as she can get it, which is with a child that is not his. He is completely PTSD with no face. And to live like that, it was a way for her to be active in her choices to leave him, and to throw him out, or to always have a main character that is actively putting herself to some extent in the situation she is in.
Yeah,
On the opposite side, you have like a very passive character that would be, let's say, just accepting her fate, or to be tricked completely just into Dagmar or lured into Dagmar's apartment. To me, it's important that she chooses to go there, she chooses to return, she chooses to kick her husband out. It makes her interesting to me, and also like ambivalent.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way you all wrote this, where there's so much happens, but there's also so many things that are left out for us to think about and wonder, like, what was their relationship like before, and I don't know, I think it's really successful in that way, that it keeps your mind working kind of the whole time. I'm curious about the visual style and like the, approaching something that's a historical film and thinking about like, how do we make it look like reality? Do we care about every little detail? Do we care about making it look like a sort of fantastical version of the past? I mean, there were a lot of like really beautiful scenes that reminded me of photographs that I've seen like from this era of like factories and just like dirty windy streets and all of that kind of stuff that's just gorgeous. And I just wondered, like, how did you and your cinematographer talk about how you wanted it to look from a camera perspective?
Well, we wanted to make our intention was to take the audience on a kind of a time travel and to really fight hard to make this world believable emotionally, that it feels real, even if it's very creative in a way. It should feel like we are taken to a different place in time. I feel so often in cinema, in costume, drama, or historical films, I'm just expected to accept a fake mustache, or someone puts on a hat and suddenly that's you're supposed to be in the past. And sometimes that's great. I mean, it's just a contract with the audience. But I like the films that really make me forget about, or it really makes me for a moment forget myself and just look at this world and believe that I'm there. So, and there are only a few films I feel that do that, like Schindler's List, for example. One of these films that successfully does that. Different time, but I believe in that time travel. So our ambitions were to create such a world, but doing that also by kind of using the images and films we feel kind of represent the times of, say, the 1910s in Europe.